Ugandans are heading to the polls today for the hotly contested presidential elections. President Yoweri Museveni is running for a sixth term against Robert Kyagulanyi aka Bobi Wine.
Well, the stakes are quite high as the 38-year-old pop singer turned politician is hoping to remove the 76-year-old Museveni. He has been clinging on to power since 1986.
The election campaign has been marred by violence, leaving more than 50 people dead. Wine has been repeatedly arrested.
And government's also ordered a block of all social media, and police have been deployed in Kampala to keep an eye on the voting.
And that's where we head off to. Our correspondent in Uganda, Isabel Nakirya. Good morning to you, Isabel. How's it looking this morning so far?
Good morning, and thank you for having me on the show. What I can say from Uganda is that we are in a total internet blackout. Yesterday, the government switched off social media fast in the morning hours, and by evening, the internet was off. So it's kind of weird. We cannot tell what is happening. But as I was driving to work this morning, of course, the voting materials have already been delivered at all the polling stations. And, of course, voters have lined up to vote, and it's still very peaceful. There's a calm sense of peacefulness, and people are voting. Voting started at 7 a.m. in the morning, but the problem is many people could be scared to go to the voting stations because there is a lot of police and military deployment. Last night, as I was driving home, there were trucks of military guys that were being deployed all over the place. All over town, there were snipers on top of the buildings, and this caused fear in many people. People had to run home early, and today, as I was driving to work, there was completely no one on the road. There were very few people walking by, and you could think it's a holiday in Uganda. But at the voting stations, some of our camera people are already there, and they say it's time and people are voting. And so we'll have to wait until later in the afternoon to see if the situation goes on the same way.
I should imagine people are concerned. It's been described as the most violent elections in history. Journalists have been rounded up. Some politicians have gone missing. I mean, give us a bit of background about the lead up here to where we are today.
In the lead up to the election, the campaigns have been marred with a lot of violence. The opposition have been blocked from attending their rallies in the wake of the coronavirus. The government says that not more than 200 people could gather in a place. And so for candidates like Bobi Wine that attract huge crowds, it was a huge problem for him because as soon as he got on the road, people would turn up to, wave at him. And of course, there were all these security guys following him around. And so as soon as people gather on the roads, they were tear gassed and beaten and brutalized. And we saw this happening in other candidates as well. And so many people were arrested, and this caused fear. And of course, with fear, many people could fear as well to turn up for the voting. And so the international observers, some international observers like the U.S. mission and the EU, say they will not turn up to observe the elections in Uganda, considering the intimidation that has taken place during the campaigns. And also the U.S. mission said many of their observers were denied accreditation, and they cannot just, take 15 people to observe the entire country because, with the elections, they need democracy, transparency. And how would they do that when their observers are not on the ground? And so that's entirely what's happening here in Uganda.
Yeah, I mean, I know quite a few journalists who've tried to get over, and they've been frustrated by the process. The demands keep on changing. I'm just wondering if you've been able to find out what it is that people want from these elections, and what chance, if any, does Bobi Wine have?
The population of Uganda, most of the population in Uganda consists of young people who are below 35 years. Young people who are probably not even there when President Museveni, who has been in power since 1986, came into power. And so most of these people have seen Museveni since they were born, and they're still seeing Museveni as a president. And so many of them are jobless, many people are poor, and they would like to see change. And when they see a candidate like a youthful candidate like Bobi Wine, who is considered young like them and grew up in the ghetto and came up through poverty, they tend to identify with him. And that's probably why many of them, have a huge following for him with his people power movement. And so many of these people are disgruntled and they would like to see change. But the change can only be done when they have voted, when there's votes. But
and what do both gentlemen have to offer? What are they saying? If you vote me in, how am I going to make your life better?
Sorry, can I come again?
I'm just wondering what the platforms are, the voting platforms of Museveni and Bobi Wine.
President Museveni has a rural following. Many of the people that vote for President Museveni come from the rural areas. In the towns, in the urban centers where people know what the economy is all about, when they cannot put food on the table, when they cannot vote, when they cannot go to work and then put food on the table, they feel like they need a change. And that's why there is a rural population in Uganda that feels that President Museveni should continue ruling, because for them, once they give them just a piece of soap or sugar and they can eat something for a day and then wait again for another, maybe a little money that is given to them, they feel that their life can move on. And then they go to their gardens and come back and get some food. But in the urban areas where people are living in slums and there is nothing to eat, they feel that surely change needs to come.
Okay, Isabel, we'll talk to you throughout the day. Keep an eye on developments for us. I mean, it really is a concern when any country prevents independent people to take part and to view the elections and find out what's happening, and obviously that repression of the opposition members beforehand.